Yes, so we are also looking at the subtraction of number bases. Previously, we looked at addition of number bases. This time, we are looking at subtraction. Okay, now, as I said earlier, the addition and the subtraction or the multiplication, how we do it is a bit different from the normal way. So, if you are thinking that the way we know in our basic school that when you are asked to subtract, you just subtract and write your answer and go. No, when you come to number basis, it is a bit what's different. And remember that as we know, if I ask you to subtract, let's say you are going to subtract this, um, you are going to subtract this. Let's say you have this here. Good. If I ask you to subtract this, in a normal way we do subtraction, we know that as you are going to subtract this from 1, 2 is greater than 1. So what do? You borrow a number from here. You borrow 1 from here, but as soon as it gets here, it becomes 10. Okay, yes, you borrow 1 from here. So when it gets here, it becomes 10. So you add 10 to the 1 to make what? 11. Okay, so that when you subtract, you get 9 here. Okay, you get 9 here, and here becomes 1. So you can't subtract again, because if you subtract it to be 0, and you can't write the 0 here. So your answer becomes 9. Now, in the case of number base, it's not done like that. It's not done like that. Now, let's say you have the same example. Let's say we have the same example here in base, let's say 3. Base 3. Let's say it is in base 3. Good. Now, in this case, remember when we're doing this, you borrow 1, it comes here, becomes 10. So we add it to make 11. In this case, for number base, when you borrow 1 from here. When you get here, it is not going to be 10, but it's going to be what? The base given in the question. So it means if I borrow 1 here, when I come here to add, it is the 3 that I'm going to, because it is given as base what? 3. So it means that I've borrowed 1 here, though when I get here, it is 3. So I'm going to add 3 to 1 to make 4 before I can subtract. So here, if I subtract 2 from 4, it is going to be what? 2. Okay, 2. Okay, great. Now, once you realize that here you have 1 here, 1 left here, you know that you can't subtract, because if you subtract, you are going to get 0, and we don't need the 0. So our answer becomes 2. So we compare this to this. You see that when you do it the normal way, you are getting 9. But if it is in base what? This, you are going to get 2. Have you gotten that? Yes. So you realize that it's very critical. Okay. So when you are dealing with subtraction and addition of number base, you need to pay keen attention. Okay. So that you don't do it the same way or the normal way we do subtraction. Okay. So we'll not waste time. Let's take more examples and look at how we can do the subtraction in number base. Okay. All right. Okay, so for our first example, we are to subtract 2 4 base 5 from 3 2 1 base 5. Okay, so this we want to write, because we are subtracting this one rather from this. So write 3 2 1 base 5. And then 2 4 base 5 minus, because we are going to subtract. Good. So we follow the same principle. We are going to subtract 4 from 1, but you see that 1 is less than 4. If that is the case, we go to the next number and borrow 1. So if you borrow 1 here, here is left with 1. But remember I said that as soon as you get here, the 1 that you are borrowing is not 10, like the normal way we do subtraction. Instead, the one you have borrowed becomes what? The base given, which is 5. So it means I've borrowed 1 here though, but when I get here, it is what? 5. So 5 plus 1 gives me what, 6. Then I can subtract. Okay, so it means that automatically here becomes what, 6. So 6 minus 4 gives me what, 2. Okay, now you know that here is left with 1, and 1 is also still less than 2. So I need to go and borrow again. So if I'm borrowing 1 from here, and it is, know that it is 5 that I'm borrowing. So 5 here was left with what, 1. So if I add 5 to 1, what is my answer? I get what, 6. So 6, if I subtract 2 from 6, then I'm going to get what, 4. Okay, now here I borrowed 1, so it is left with what, 2. Then I can write my 2, and that gives me the answer. So you see that it is not difficult, very, very what, simple. Okay, so when you are given such example, you don't need to waste much time. All right, good. Let's take another example. Another example. Okay, so for example 2, we are finding the difference of this. So I'll write 1 0 1 0 base 5, and then I will have 3 2 3 base 5. Good. So here we come again. We are subtracting 3 from 0, but 0 is less than 3. So we borrow 1 here. In this case, it is 5. So when it gets here, it is the base, which is 5. So I'll add 5 to 0, and I will get what? 5. So 5 minus 3 gives me what? 2. Now here was 1. I borrowed the 1. So here becomes 0. So I'll come here again and borrow what? Another 1. Okay, but you realize that here is also 0. So I have to move to the next one and borrow 1. So when I borrow 1 and add to this, you know that if I'm borrowing 1, then it becomes 5. It is 5 that I'm going to borrow. So if I come here, it is 5. I add 5 to this, and it becomes what? 5. Then I can borrow 1 also from here. And when I get here, know that here was already 0 because I borrowed 1 to this. So here was 0. So this time I have my 5 here because I have borrowed 1, which is 5 as the base, to here. So here now is 5. Now I'm borrowing 1 again. When I get here, here is 5. So I'm going to add to the 0 here, okay, which is 5. So if I subtract 2 from 5, I'm going to get what? 3. Now remember that when we borrowed 1 here, it was 5. We added to 0, we got 5. And we borrowed 1 from the 5 again. So here became what? 3 and 4. Sorry. So here was left with 4. So it means 4 minus 3 gives me what? 1. And that becomes what? Our answer. So when you are doing these things, it is not difficult. It is very easy. But if you are not careful, you may mix things up. So you see that very, very simple. Let's take another example. So for example 3, we are to find the missing number. So you see that here we have some missing numbers here. Okay, great. So what this means is that we subtracted a certain number from 305. Now this one is in base 6. Okay, this is in base 6. So we subtracted a certain number from this in base 6, and we got these answers. So if you are asked to find this missing number, how do we do it? So this is very simple. You know that if I subtract this from this, I will get this. Then this one will be total. Okay, this one will be bigger than this, and this one is at the same time bigger than this. So if I want to get the missing, then I need to subtract this answer from this, because if I add this to that, it will give me this. Okay, so what we are going to do is that to find the missing number, we are only going to subtract the answer we have gotten, which is 222 222 in base what, 6. Okay, so let's subtract. Now 5 minus 2 gives me what? 3. 0 minus 2, we know that this is 0, so I will come here and borrow 1. When I add 1 to this, we know that it is not 1, but it is the base, which is 6. So here it will be 6. 6 plus this. Okay, 6 plus 0 gives me 6. So 6 minus 2 gives me what? 4. Now we know that here it is giving us what? 2, because I borrowed 1 from here. So here is left with 2 and we cannot subtract. So we leave our answer like this. It means that the missing number is what? 43 base 6. Okay. Okay, now let's solve the word problem here. So in this word problem, it says when 101 base 2 is subtracted from 11010 base 2, the result is 1p10q base 2. Find the values of p and q. Good. So for this one, we are saying when this is subtracted from that. So what you do is you need to subtract this from this, then equate to what? This. The answer you get when you equate to this, then you compare. Okay, you compare the corresponding values. Okay, so first of all, what we do is we need to find the difference of this. So we are going to get right 1010 base 2, and when this is subtracted from that, so we are going to see if indeed we will get the result to be this. Okay, so in base 2, I'm going to do the subtraction because say when this is subtracted. Okay, so 0 minus 1, you realize that this is smaller than this, so we come here and borrow 1. In that case, the one we are borrowing becomes the base given in the question, which is 2. So here I'm taking 1, yet here will be 2. So 2 plus 0 gives me what? 2. 2 minus 1 gives me what? 1. Then here is left with 0. So 0 minus 0 is still 0. Now here is also 0. So what we'll do is I will come here and subtract. So since this is also less, we also have to come here and borrow 1. Okay, so if you borrow 1, it becomes 2, the base 2 here. So we add 2 to it, and it's also 2. So 2 minus 1 also gives us what? 1. Now you know that here is left with what? 0. So there's nothing here, so we can write 0 here, and then write our 1 here. Good. In that case, this is base 2. So this is the answer we are getting. When we subtract this from that, we get this. Now in the question, we were given this. It means that if we subtract this, the result is this. So this is the result we have gotten. So we are only going to equate this result we have gotten. We are equating the result we have gotten to what is given in the question. Okay, and then compare. So it means that the result of this, which is 10101 base 2, is equal to, the result is this, 1p10q base 2. So what we do is we compare. Let's count them first if they are the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same in base 2. So let's compare the first one. You realize that the first one, we have 1 here. The same 1 is here. Now here P, we don't know, so you leave it. Let's compare the middle. You realize that we have 1 here. We have 1 also here. We have 0 here, we have 0 here, and we have Q here. Then automatically you can see that this is what we didn't get here. This and that represent what? My P and Q. So you can see that therefore P, which is for this one, is equal to 0, and my Q, which is also for this one, is equal to 1. So when you have questions like this, that is how you should go about it. It's very, very hot, simple, very basic. All right, so let's end here. There are more examples, but we need to do more on that. Let's end here and solve one more example in our next video. So in our next video, we are going to solve one word problem on this. Okay, we are going to solve one word problem on this. After that, then we'll look at the multiplication part. Okay, all right. So let's end here. Okay.